Welcome back, everybody, to the James and Dames podcast. We are going to go over the Super Bowl that just happened this last weekend and kind of recap significant points of it, and just kind of covering that, I guess, because it's the end of the 2023-2024 season, so it's been a long ride. It wasn't a great ride.
Josiah's very, very clearly excited for this recording session.
So, obviously, the Chiefs won. If you haven't seen the billions of posts by the official NFL accounts. Second overtime in Super Bowl history. Both happened to have Kyle Shanahan be on the losing side of both of those. He has blown another Super Bowl lead. I don't think he can escape it anymore. I don't think he can.
It wasn't, but it's not that bad. It will not be. It's not going to be anywhere near 28-3. But
no.
10-0 going into halftime. You can't.
It was 10-3.
Or 10-3.
Yeah, it was 10-3 into halftime.
Yeah, then I don't know. Well, they were up 10-0 at some point. It was short. It was right before half, right? They kicked a one right before. I don't know. If you're the 49ers, there was no chance you're sitting there going, this is a comfortable lead.
No.
It's a 10-point lead, especially with the 49ers against Chiefs. They were like, no way. But most teams in a Super Bowl, a 10-point lead going into half is not very significant, especially if it's 10-0.
Mm-mm.
So,
no.
It's kind of funny that there was the whole thing of him choking it away. But I'm like, he did choke it away, but not like it's not like he blew a lead. Blowing the lead is not the argument I would make. There was a lot of things to look at. I focused more when looking back at it on the overtime decisions because there's been a lot of stuff coming out about the 49ers playing overtime wrong, which they absolutely did.
Because they didn't know the rules.
There were several players who reported that they didn't know the rules of the new overtime, which, it didn't matter.
But you still should have some awareness of what should happen. Even Nicole Hardman, who caught the winning touchdown, didn't even know he won the game.
He didn't?
No, he didn't know.
I don't remember. Was it Dan Orlovsky? Was trashing Kyle Shanahan for making the wrong overtime decision, which I agree with the overtime rules as they are now. Each team getting a possession, I would absolutely agree with Orlovsky, and I'm going to give some flack to Shanahan. If both teams are guaranteed to get the ball, you want the ball second.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and that's I guess part of the perks of knowing college football a little bit better, because that's like, if you're in college football and you go to overtime, you want the ball second.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a given thing. But if you've been coaching in the NFL for a long time, you're probably used to, I want the ball first because we can win the game on one drive. But that's not.
It's not how it works.
Not the case in the playoffs anymore. So,
nope.
I'm not surprised. A lot of teams are going to be learning from this, though.
I told you it was going to be either a blowout from the 49ers or the Chiefs were somehow going to sneak by.
It was frustrating because the Chiefs didn't really do much. It kind of just felt like the 49ers did what we were saying that they couldn't do, which was just kind of poorly manage a game where you're the better opponent.
Yeah.
And, looking at the stats, they don't look horrible. They absolutely, one of the things, they had, 3 mistakes they made? There was some poor coaching in the second half where they were struggling to move the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But the 3 big mistakes that were made, there was the fumble on the first drive, which sucked because they were actually close to scoring. They were in Chiefs territory, and that would have really set the tone. But McCaffrey fumbled on a run, which sucks because he was the most reliable player on that team. He did so much. He had 80 receiving yards and 80 rushing yards and 30 total touches.
Mm-hmm.
He was the leading receiver. You know who wasn't a prominent receiver for the 49ers was George Kittle.
Was it 2 catches for 4 yards?
Yes, it was. But
his vengeance.
I'll get back to that in a minute. But that was the mistake early in the game, and then there was the muffed punt that wasn't even on Ray McLeod. It went off, I don't know who it went off of.
It went off the back of someone's foot, and then it bounced. So therefore, technically, the Niners touched it, so it was a live ball. Then he tried to get it, and then he missed it, and then that was the whole thing. So that wasn't even. It was just dumb luck. That's all that was.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that is the thing is it is luck. There's a lot of luck that goes into it, but unfortunately, there was a third mistake. The third mistake being the blocked extra point, which doesn't really come down to Jake Moody, but like.
That was the game changer right there. That blocked extra point. I was like, this is going to come back to haunt them.
Well, it's the. This is kind of the point I'm getting at is the 49ers. I mean, again, there was portions in the second half where they just didn't move the ball, and that really hurt them a lot. But you look at it and it's like they only 3 mistakes, and it's an extra point, a turnover that led to a field goal, and a turnover that cost you probably at least a field goal at the beginning of the game.
Yeah,
and you look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs fumbled the ball 5 times.
Yeah.
Do you know how many times they lost it?
Was it a couple? Right?
I'll give you a hint. These teams had the same amount of turnovers.
Really?
Yeah.
5 each?
No. The Chiefs fumbled it 5 times. They only lost it once, though. They recovered the other 4.
Oh.
And then Patrick Mahomes threw an interception. But if you look at his, that's 5 fumbles. That's 4 missed opportunities that the Chiefs fumbled and recovered it that the 49ers could have recovered. That is 4 missed opportunities. The Chiefs did not miss on any of their opportunities. Blocked extra point, recovered the messed up punt, and recovered the fumble. And now you could consider it luck. You could consider it whatever. Chiefs capitalized on 49ers mistakes. 49ers did not as much. Basically you had 6 opportunities for turnovers and only converted 2 of them. That hurts.
Yeah, it killed them. It really did.
It is. This is about how I expected the Chiefs to win. It was
gonna be some BS, like down to the wire at the very last minute, like it always is, and then somehow they pull off a victory for no reason. It's always been that way for the Chiefs.
It's just like, again, they were outmatched, and they made less mistakes, capitalized on the other mistakes the other team made, and it's like if the 49ers had 20 things they could have done in order to win this game. Like, they had so much in front of them. It was like, if it was just this, but they mismanaged their game. The Chiefs had to do every single thing right to win this game, pretty much.
They mostly did. There was a couple mishaps along the way, but for the most part, they didn't mess up a whole lot.
You go back to turnovers, 2 out of 6. If they turned over 1 more of those, they probably lose that game. And it's like they played a tight game, and again, yes, they're turnovers, but you made mistakes, and they got lucky with a lot of it. So again, a lot of it is luck. A lot of it is capitalizing, especially that defense. It was just one of those games where it's like, why is this happening? This shouldn't be happening. But that's what every game against the Chiefs has been for the past 3 matchups, is teams that should be better and should win, and just mistakes occur, and you're like, why are you're basically letting the Chiefs win right now on your own terms, this is unacceptable.
Yeah. Except there's always going to be controversy with every single game. And I'd say in this Super Bowl, there wasn't a whole lot of controversy when it came to, like, play calling, or not play calling, but officiating. Officiating was pretty decent for up to a certain point. Except there were a lot of holds on the O-line for the Chiefs that should be called, but for some reason the team that got penalized the most on the offensive line throughout the entire season didn't get one that entire Super Bowl, which is no offense, you did not improve that O-line when it came to holding, so they got real lucky with having no calls on that O-line, but.
It's also like refs have different, because again, everyone holds. So
yeah, everybody on the line does.
Yeah, that's why it's like different refs have different like levels of what they'll let go.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why at the end of the day is like as long as it's consistent, like if you're giving the Chiefs the same treatment you're giving the 49ers, fine. So
yeah, I mean, granted, I also haven't seen a whole lot of 49ers offensive line or defensive line, but I guess my point is that the fact that I've seen at least 5 to 6 different plays where there should have been offensive holding on the line, that's kind of like a
well,
it shouldn't change the game, but it's like you should look at that next time. But there's got to be some consistency in officiating, and the playoffs weren't terrible this year when it came to officiating. It's been better.
It got
really better.
Just the regular season that was bad.
It was the regular season that was awful. And the thing is that at least the crews in these playoffs, they didn't really affect the game too much. There were a lot of missed calls during the postseason, I feel like, but they were mostly consistent, I would say, throughout that entire time frame. So I'm not mad at the officiating crew this season, or at least the postseason. Like I thought they did better. So that's what I was begging for during the regular season. I was like, if this is going to be the status quo for like the entire postseason, I can't bear to watch it. But it wasn't that bad.
They picked it up. I'm not gonna. I have no complaints.
It was not the officiating that lost
it was
the Niners.
Again, it was exactly what we'd been saying, which was don't do what every other team had done up to that point, and they did anyways.
It was a lot of stupid mistakes, and it was just like I sat there through some of those plays. I just looked at the TV screen, and I was yelling at it like, Shanahan, why are you not using McCaffrey? Shanahan, why are you calling this play right now when you literally need to get 2 yards? Like, I think Shanahan overthought a couple situations a little too much. I'm like, Shanahan, this is basic Division I high school football. You don't need to do this crazy stuff. It's not hard.
But that's what teams have been doing against it. That's what we've been saying is the Chiefs are not the most talented roster.
No.
But it has been what has won them their last 3 games is opponent coaches changing their game plan to try and match and try and beat the Chiefs. And it's like the Ravens passed the ball way too much. I don't remember exactly what the Bills.
All 3 teams that lost to the Chiefs never utilized the run game halfway through the game, or at least the second half of the game. The Bills didn't use it in the second half. Ravens had basically no running game. 49ers definitely had it like towards the end of the game, but for a majority of the second half, it was non-existent. They were not using McCaffrey. And it was like, if you're not using the best running back in the league right now to, move down the field, and he's at least consistently getting you 3 to 5 yards per play.
They had some possessions where they were blitzing just because, and it's like, why are you first of all, you're doing that against Patrick Mahomes, which I get, like, you're trying to create pressure and not give him safe throws, but he's
known to make it out of those very well.
Well, it's not even scrambling ability. Tom Brady did really good against the blitz because the one thing you do when you blitz is you leave something open, and you're just hoping pressure causes a mishap. But with like Tom Brady, he has a really quick release, and he's good at like containing the pressure and getting it out when it needs to happen. Patrick Mahomes is on that same level of just eliteness where that's not really, you have to have the corners to back it up. And I
Yes.
know they had, is it Charvarius Ward? Like, yeah, he had a good year, but he's shown in years past that he's not an elite corner. And well, that's even the thing is it wasn't even like a wide receiver one. The Chiefs' top receivers, first the one that pissed me off was that their leading receiver was Kelsey, who didn't do anything until the end of the game.
Yeah.
Was like non-existent, and then
Yeah.
well, and that's what happens when you blitz. Is usually a good tight end is usually who ends up
Yeah.
open. But
Yep.
you had Hardman, who had 57 yards, someone who had not done anything all year, and especially in the postseason. He made at least 2 really big plays, and it's you're letting these players. If it was Rashee Rice who was getting everything, or even MVS, because I think MVS is an underrated receiver, but
Yeah,
Rashee Rice
he's been sloppy this year, but yes.
Rashee Rice has been growing into a decent receiver, and for him not to, he didn't. I mean, he had 6 receptions, but he didn't get over 40 yards.
He was there.
It was a receiving room by committee. It was spread around a lot, but 34 completions, and I don't think anyone had more than. None of the receivers had more than 10. None over 100 yards. Kelsey was the only one, I think, over 60. So it was they just spread the ball around. Again, Chiefs just made less mistakes and didn't
fuck up on coaching.
They didn't deter from their path. Like the 49ers who were like, oh man, they're coming back. We got to change the game plan. No, just play smart. And
it was disappointing to watch because I was like, the Niners had the game mostly wrapped up to a certain degree. It was just once they got halfway through that third quarter, they just started slipping and slipping and slipping. I was like, what are you guys doing? They weren't doing enough. And that's why I was just praying that there wasn't going to be anything stupid coming out of that game. But here we are. Mahomes has his 3rd Super Bowl already. Same time frame as Brady as well. So if you want to make the comparisons there, I mean, it's pretty close. Mahomes still obviously has a long way to go to take the mantle of the GOAT. But in my opinion, Mahomes will never be the GOAT unless he passes Brady, Super Bowl rings wise.
I don't think that's. I don't think that's something that's going to happen because again, you'll. Like we discussed, like dynasty-wise, yeah, you're having a dynasty, but no dynasty compares to Tom Brady's dynasty.
No, nothing does.
Nothing has, and I don't think anything will. I think that is the anomaly, and I think that is going to be the comparison for decades to come. And I think Patrick, like, he's doing a fantastic job, but it's like, look at the other dynasties. That's more realistic, even if it's a 7 to 10-year reign.
If it's a 7 to 10 year reign, I think that's a pretty decent run.
Yeah, that could put him in might put him at second best quarterback.
I believe that. I think he is the second best quarterback of all time. It's just as of right now, he won't be number 1 unless he passes Brady, or I don't know, his dynasty goes for even longer. I have no idea, honestly. I just won't see him as number 1 yet.
Yeah,
not for a long time.
Well, and I don't think it'll be.
Ever.
He won't. I don't think he'll ever be a clear number 1 because Brady, his numbers are high enough that even if Mahomes gets up to it, then it's a conversation. But it's
definitely a conversation.
I don't think if Mahomes gets there. Now, I will admit, I think Mahomes is a more talented quarterback.
He is definitely a more talented quarterback. It's just Brady has had the assets and the ability to have a very long reigning, I don't know, longevity. That's all it is. Because he wasn't a very mobile quarterback. He wasn't very skilled on the ground, or at least when it came to running around. But what was it? I had a little conversation with one of the people I was watching the Super Bowl with, and he was like, Mahomes basically has no receivers and everything, and Brady had all the best receivers. I'm like, do you have you watched most of Brady's tenure? He's made almost nothing get something like it, except for Moss. At least in the 2000s, 2010s, like the 2010s era specifically. Brady, for the most part, only had Moss, and then he got Gronk halfway through the 2010s, and then Edelman.
Edelman.
Yeah.
He had Amendola. He had Wes Welker.
Yeah.
Like, he had receivers. They weren't as big names.
No, they were definitely
But
not.
it's also, again, you can't compare them because it's like, yeah, Tom Brady had Randy Moss. It's like, well, yeah, Patrick Mahomes
Has had Kelsey.
Well, you equate Kelsey to Gronk and
Gronk is still
Mahomes to what'd you say?
I said Gronk is still better. Gronk is the best tight end of all time.
Oh, I don't know that I would go there, but I'll save that for later.
I will.
I'm just saying, like, as far as contribution, everything at their position, you can basically equate them, and then you have Tyreek Hill and Randy Moss. Sure, Tyreek Hill is not Randy Moss, but as far as level of how well he could play and how well he functioned in that offense, as far as functionality, they're about the same. Mm-hmm. And then you have some of the smaller names, and you can look at the Chiefs, and it's like, well, Hardman, prior to this year, while he was there, was part of that. MVS has kind of been...
MVS has been around for a while.
None of them compare, I don't think, to Edelman, Welker, or even Amendola, except Tyreek Hill.
So I guess my point is that Gronk didn't have all those weapons for his entire career. Mahomes has so far.
You mean Brady?
Brady has had all those weapons, or didn't have all those weapons for most of his career. Mahomes has had Hill, Kelsey, and all those people for like so far his entire career. I mean, Hill up until this year, but
last year.
Last year.
Hill left last year.
There's going to be people in the sports community who's like, Mahomes is obviously the GOAT now. I'm like, it's because of recency bias.
Absolutely.
That's the thing.
Well, it's that, and he's, and it's also just, again, you can kind of look at him and actually be like, oh, he actually does have more talent.
Yeah.
Like, he is a more talented quarterback.
Yeah. I think it's just depending on how you define as, like, what do you qualify as, like, the best of? Like, if you're talking about, like, the best of scrambling quarterbacks, obviously Mahomes would be in there. But do you have, like, I don't know, some of these crazy quarterbacks who keep running for their life sometimes, like Lamar Jackson sometimes. And then you have, Josh Allen. Vic was there.
Oh,
my point is that there's a whole group of quarterbacks that love to scramble. And then you have Tom Brady's corner where you have Roethlisberger, you have got Rodgers and everybody who just didn't scramble. Breeze didn't scramble.
Rodgers would scramble.
Well, okay, Rodgers would scramble a little bit more, but
Breeze, yes.
My point is that there's there's categories of quarterbacks. I think Tom Brady's the best of all time, but if we're going specifically, Mahomes is better than Brady in some aspects, for sure.
Well, people make this argument is even Aaron Rodgers, talent-wise, was better than Brady. Brady was not the most talented quarterback. He didn't have the strongest arm. He was a pretty accurate quarterback.
He was an accurate quarterback, too. That's what I'm saying is that I think Kelsey specifically next year is going to decline a little bit. This year we kind of already saw that a little bit, or at least in the postseason specifically, because he didn't do too much this postseason.
I think he's only done stuff in the postseason. I think he was pretty...
Maybe I flipped that around.
Yeah, I think regular season he was pretty under the radar, and postseason was when teams struggled to actually do anything against him.
At least, yeah, for sure. Yeah, because there were definitely some games this year where I was like, where's Kelsey? Because the games that the Chiefs lost, Kelsey was not the number one wide receiver or leading in reception yards. Or at least most of those games, I think. But I don't know. There's some stat or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whenever Kelsey's not leading in receiving yards, the Chiefs most likely will lose those games. I didn't like watching the game because it's like I didn't want either to win. But, I watched it because it was like, I don't know. It was fun socializing with people. I got to see a bunch of people that I haven't seen for years.
It was a fun social event because I don't think as far as I a gathering to watch the Super Bowl, and basically we're like, all right, so what's the consensus? What are people rooting for? One person was rooting for the Chiefs. Most everyone else was rooting for the 49ers, and I sat there and went, not the Chiefs. I'm not rooting for the 49ers, but I'm rooting for Chiefs' downfall.
Chiefs, yes.
Which is, it's just, again, it was one of the, and again, I don't hate the 49ers. The organization and the fan base, I'm like, is the one that I'm not so much a fan of, but the actual players on the team, I'm like, that would have been great. Chase Young, I would have loved to see get a ring, because that would have helped him with he did get a sack and a TFL, so that helps him get a contract boost.
I wanted CMC. I wanted him so badly to get a Super Bowl ring, because like he deserves it. After how long he's been in the NFL, how like he's been mostly consistent, I would say, most of his career, except for like the later years.
He had an injury stint. Yeah. That was where it was rough for him. But other than that, he's been top 3 at least receiver or running back wise.
I was actually not opposed to seeing Purdy get a Super Bowl.
The majority of NFL fans didn't want these two teams because of the reasoning that you and I experienced, which is they get so much coverage. We already see so much of them. We don't want that. We want something new.
Yeah, but nobody wants to see the same stale competition every single year. And there's already Chiefs fans who's like, we're going to do a three-peat. I'm like, I swear to God, if the Chiefs do a three-peat, I'm actually kind of done with the NFL. Because it's not that I don't want to see Mahomes like do very well or anything. Like, genuinely, Mahomes, I hope he goes up into that Hall of Fame area where like he's there with like Brady and like a few other like very high qualified.
Well, he's already.
I know I'm saying, but like
to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, to the Hall of Fame. I can't wait to see that. Like I'm genuinely,
especially because that means he won't be in the league anymore.
Yeah, I guess my point is
somebody go get a hammer, break some kneecaps. Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell, where are you? But I guess my point is that it'll be a very very great day to see that happen, because it's like you have to at least appreciate the fact that we have the talent in the NFL that we already do have. Because like I mean, for a while, as much as people hated Brady, I know there's a lot of people who are like, I still hate Brady. He's still not in the NFL. And I'm like, you can't deny the fact that he has had a very long and successful career that no one has ever had so far in the NFL.
But to be dominant when you have, or like over the course of 20 years, when you have to play with other people to be successful, it can't just be. It's not just you. You have to rely on other people. Mm-hmm. It's like, yes, it's a crutch, but it's also very impressive because for again, Tom Brady's sake, yes, he had really good defenses, but like we've mentioned, his offense was not.
It's not as good, but I do agree with the trope that defenses do win you championships, but also it's like you said, it's a team game. It's like both sides of the ball have to do something.
People have said it's like, oh, it's so much easier. It's so much easier to win with a good defense, but it's also a lot harder to keep a good defense
for a long time.
Because a good defense comprises of 11 good players. Mm-hmm. One weakness is a fatal flaw. While on an offense, you can have a pretty good offense centered around one or two guys.
Yeah, which is crazy to think about, honestly.
Because it's you determine where the ball goes. Mm-hmm. So you have control over the ball. The defense needs to be a complete unit because one weakness, there's an opening for the ball to go to. Mm-hmm. So if you don't work completely together perfectly, you have weaknesses, and those can be, if you have good coaching, those can be worked on. But
good. So, I mean, we're in another dynasty right now, so it's very weird to feel about that because it's not the Patriots anymore, it's the Chiefs. But I guess Chiefs fans obviously take it in because this is like something that you will never have for a very, very long time after Mahomes is gone. Because, I mean, once he's gone, it's like, what are you going to do about that? I mean, it's very rare that a dynasty continues on to like another generational talent like Mahomes or Brady or Montana or like all those guys. Because you know how Montana and Young, like how it went from Montana to Young. Rarely does that happen, and it just only happened once. So, I mean, even then, it was like,
well, I mean, because it's already hard enough to find back-to-back franchise quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And there's one organization who's mastered that, but they can't win Super Bowls with franchise quarterbacks for 30 years. And it's like, wow, if the Chiefs could figure out how to do what the Packers have been doing, they would be fine. Well, although, again, we don't know because they're also Andy Reid's probably going to be gone before Patrick Mahomes retires.
Which is kind of sad to think about because it's like Andy Reid's been he's been around for a while. I mean, it sucks to think about it because it's like, I mean, he's such a cool dude, and now he's gonna retire.
He's a cool dude, but yeah. I mean, again, that is like the point of dynasties that we talk about. Is that is what makes the Patriots so odd? Is because the big three. It used to be the big four, but you saw one leave, which was Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. But you still have the big three of Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, mm-hmm. And most organizations are not able to keep all of those pieces together for a long period of time. Yeah, that was what was an anomaly with the Patriots. Mm-hmm. You had Bill Belichick, who was young enough and loves the game enough, or at least loves winning enough to stick around for 20 years. Tom Brady, you got young, which is, again, usually the quarterback is not the first to go. It's usually the coach or, in a lot of situations, the tight end. Mm-hmm. And obviously Brady didn't have Gronk for his entire career, but that's when they were like the most dominant, was when he was there. And so looking at the Chiefs, yes, you have Kelce, yes, you have Andy Reid, but both of them are towards the end of their careers. So if both of them were younger, mm-hmm. I absolutely think that you could see this team, if Kelce and Reid stay with Patrick Mahomes, that's as far as that dynasty.
It would definitely last
at least until at least one of them left.
Yeah.
So, and I think that is the minimum mm-hmm. for this dynasty. It is until it could go beyond, but you won't see it end probably until Andy Reid or Travis Kelce leaves. Coaching landscape is so hard to tell because especially now because you have so many new ones coming in.
Mm-hmm. We've filtered out the older generation of coaches as well because I mean we're getting to the point where yes, Belichick I think he's still the oldest coach for sure, but he's not on a team right now.
Yeah, he's not a coach right now.
And who is it? Now we have another youngest coach in the NFL. I think it was the.
So what it was Gerard Mayo, and then
Mayo. That was Seattle, wasn't it?
Oh, is it Mike McDonald?
Yeah.
The Ravens defensive coordinator.
Yeah. Who's
now the youngest, but you have him. You have Callahan on the Titans, who's young. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of young guys coming in, and obviously we don't know if any of them are good because, what was it, 10 years ago we saw a bunch of 40, 50-year-old coaches coming in, and some of them I only know their names because they were so bad. Hence, who is it? Hugh Jackson?
Yeah, we don't talk about him.
But it's like, young doesn't necessarily mean good.
No.
When you have a young generation of coaches coming in, that means that one of them is going to stand out. And, again, some of them are ahead of their time because you already have Sean McVay, who's set in.
Yeah.
You have Shanahan, who's set in. LaFleur mm-hmm. is set in. And those are some of, your younger coaches. There are some teams still looking at older coaches, like the Chargers, who just got Harbaugh. Baltimore still has Harbaugh. Broncos just got Peyton last year. And it's like some of them are trying to stick with the old before going with the new. Because going with the new, people talk about franchise quarterbacks, but coaches are hard to get and very detrimental when you don't get them right.
It's very hard to find a good coach that fits not only your team's scheme, but also gets along with your team, gets along with your front office, who knows how to manage the draft, or at least has some experience, or little to no experience, honestly, because, a lot of new coaches are kind of jumping into this with either little or no experience at all.
Well, that's why you have that's the thing looking at staff and stuff is that's why you get a good GM, because GMs are usually a lot of the times are more involved with drafting, but also just player personnel in general.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches, yes, they're coaching the guys, so if they want someone, they're like, I want this person, and then it usually goes to the GM. Belichick is one of the few coaches that tried to be a GM, and it didn't work. That was a large part of the issue. That's why they weren't drafting well, and their free agent acquisitions were just questionable. Those were all Bill, and it's like if they're GMs are meant. That's what GMs are for, is handling player personnel.
Literally,
coaches have input, but especially these young guys, they're gonna have to lean on a GM, and they're just gonna have to try and coach. Hope that just trust your GM and organization to bring in good players, do your job to coach them to victory. The argument I'll make against the whole scheme thing is usually your coaches are your scheme. Not the players fit the scheme. The coaches set the scheme.
Yeah.
And a good scheme, it comes from a good coach. So 49ers haven't won a Super Bowl. It's very possible that the 49ers go, Shanahan can't get us over the hump. We're taking someone else. Or Eagles with Sirianni. Or if LaFleur can't get the Packers there, maybe you could see a good coach leave because a team is we're one step away. You know what the Cowboys should do, but the Cowboys are the Cowboys being the one team who the coach is not the issue, aren't doing that, which is funny.
I mean, no, the head coach is kind of the issue as well. It's just more controlled by the person in power.
Starting with the Chiefs, what do the Chiefs do here in this offseason to try and at least make it back to another one? I mean,
work on the O-line. Well, not just the O-line, but that's one of the things I think the Chiefs need to work on.
I would say receiving core is probably main focus. I think Matt Nagy should go, but I don't know.
I'm surprised that Matt Nagy was able to do that.
He didn't, but he had done anything though.
He didn't do anything. He was just there. That's just what annoys me to some degree with some Super Bowl victories is that there are some people who just didn't do anything and then didn't deserve the victory. Sure, they were part of the team, but they didn't do anything to contribute to that victory, and that's what kind of ticks me off a little bit in some aspect. Now we have Kadarius Toney, who has more Super Bowl victories than Aaron Rodgers. What did Toney do this game?
I just
Nothing.
find that funny.
So that's my point. It's how it's not. Yes, it's fair because they were part of the team, but it's also not fair because they didn't do anything.
Well, yeah, he didn't do. Tony specifically didn't do anything.
No.
Nagy did a little bit more, but I think
he didn't do enough to change anything.
The Chiefs need to revamp the offense. Obviously, you keep Pacheco, Mahomes,
obviously.
Kelsey if you can keep him around.
He's getting old though, so I have no idea how long he's gonna be.
Maybe he'll get. I loved my friends kept sitting. It's just if the Chiefs win and Kelsey proposes, I was like,
he didn't propose though.
Failed marriage. But
he didn't propose though.
He's getting to a point where it's things are falling in place for him. I think he's gonna kind of do what Brady did, and he's gonna go out on a down year, not a up year, because.
He might.
I think he's in the mindset of, one more, until it's clear that there's no one more, and he's that's probably when he's gonna dip out. But for now, tight end, they're solid. They have even solid guys behind him. What's it, Noah Gray?
Gray is behind him. So Gray's been consistent backup whenever Kelsey's not in.
I know the Chiefs struggle with O-line health.
O-line health was definitely a thing, at least earlier in the year, I think. Yeah, the O-line was definitely not healthy for some parts of the season. They weren't good. They also weren't healthy. That was part of the issue. So, I mean, I think other than that, I think the Chiefs are pretty solid going forward because they are probably going to keep that defense for sure.
But like we said, keeping a defense is keeping a strong defense. If you keep Spagnuolo, you're going to have at least a good defense, but keeping the pieces you have
Yeah.
is going to be hard.
And trying to adjust to a running defense, or true, also stopping the run, because the Chiefs' defense haven't stopped a whole lot of.
Yeah, the run game was not their specialty. Their specialty was the pass game. They did very well with that, but they need, and they can work on that, but it's also maintaining some of the guys, and they're going to lose guys because that's just how there's turnover every year. They have a good linebacker room right now, but I don't know how long that'll last.
Yeah.
So it'll just be building up depth. If they can keep the defense together, then honestly it's receivers and then building up depth and just reloading. 49ers, on the other hand, there's talks that Ayuk might not be back next year.
Which is crazy. I mean, the thing is that he deserves to have at least starting wide receiver at one point. I mean, because he's a good wide receiver. He's a solid option.
He is the number 2. He is.
Yeah, it's just it happens that Samuel is just there.
Yeah, and they like to use Samuel in their ways. That's why he kind of gets that priority. And it's not really an offense built for more of a downfield receiver, which is, I think, what he can be. It's so hard to tell what his potentially actually is, because that is not an offensive scheme that really flashes your receivers very well.
No.
So, because again, Debo is your most talented receiver, but you use him as a running back half the time.
Yeah.
So I have no idea how does Debo Samuel. He still has a few years, doesn't he?
He definitely does have a couple years for sure. I just don't know how they're going to use him in the future.
If they're losing, they're probably going to lose Chase Young, but he was he was a rotation guy.
He was a rotation guy. I kind of forgot about that. I don't know if they're going to use him for much longer.
That's why, that whole trade, the whole thing was 49ers are doing this to put him on a run, and it benefits him because it helps him with a contract. Montez Sweat was finding a long-term home. This is Chase Young. He's building a resume. He's going to go off and try and get a bag somewhere. It's not going to be as big, but, I mean, his contribution, I think, is enough for him to get a job somewhere. But at the 49ers, you're going to see some turnover, probably along the O-line, some guys along the defense. I have no idea. Their guys are older on defense.
They are. They're definitely an older group, I think. Because, what is it?
I mean, you have young guys. You have Hufanga and Warner.
Warner, yeah. But I'm more worried about the line than anything else.
Armstead.
I
don't know how old Greenlaw is.
It also depends if they want to stay as well, or in fact just want to just retire as well, because some of those guys are just like, I'm kind of done with everything. So
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do, in especially free agency, because they kind of gave up some pieces for. They gave up some stuff to get pieces for a Super Bowl run, and that included draft capital. So
I don't know how they're gonna survive.
They still have a stacked roster. So even if they lose some pieces, I think they'll be okay for a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
And anything beyond that is just how they treat the next offseason or two. But it's on them. It's honestly, it's hard to say that they're. I've heard people be like, oh, this is the 49ers window. This was their last chance. And it's like, look at their quarterback. Sure, CMC's not going to be around forever, but they have so much depth and so much talent that it's hard for me to be like, yeah, they
will probably regress a little bit, but not too much, I feel like.
But they were the best team in the NFC.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they probably won't be the best team in the NFC next year, but they'll probably be definitely one of the top 3 teams. I
don't know how you think they could fall off. They're
not going to fall off too hard.
They're not going to fall off that much.
Unless something crazy happens, which, I don't know. We've seen
Cowboys win the Super Bowl.
We've seen some weird stuff happen in the NFL where it's like, this team should go to the Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden they just collapse. And sometimes it's drama, sometimes it's coaching, sometimes it's just injuries, and whatever. But
yeah, stuff happens. But honestly, I think both are set up pretty decently to have Chiefs
at least
are
another shot. Yeah.
Chiefs, as long as they have Mahomes and Reed, are poised are a threat to make another run next year.
Yeah.
And then
definitely are.
49ers just have the roster where they could do it. And I think Shanahan is still a good coach, so I think he could get them back there. So it's, two teams who could go back again.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll see both back there again next year, but if I do, it's going to be harder to cover it even next year if it's these two again.
I'm sorry, NFL. As much as you want to push some narratives and everything, people just kind of get tired of the old same boring stuff. I mean,
Absolutely.
we really are. I will talk about a couple of things during the game, specifically around Kelsey and Taylor Swift. I've lost all respect for Kelsey. When he pushed Reed during that Super Bowl, I lost all respect.
He's okay, but people are making a big deal, and it's incredibly rude, but also he's already done that this year. That was not his first time doing that. He's been that way all year. So him doing that, I was like, whoa, but also at the same time, he's been doing it, so that
I guess my point is that you've said all year.
And years past, but not
so much years past.
This year.
More so this year. I guess that's my point, is that this year specifically, I've talked to a lot of people, including Chiefs fans, and they're like, yeah, Travis Kelce is such a great guy and everything. People have been saying that for years. I mean, sure, he's had like some moments where it's like he gets heated and everything. I'm specifically remembering that one Jaguars-Chiefs game from like 2015 or whatever that was, where he got pulled from behind or whatever, and it didn't get called and everything. He threw his towel at a ref. You remember that? He's had moments in the past where he's gotten heated up. I mean, any player would. I mean, it depends on who we're talking about. But I guess specifically this year, he's been a lot more whinier. And
But I think that's the Chiefs as a whole.
That's just how they roll. It's just, because they're the victors, you have to paint them in a positive light. And I'm like, no, you don't always have to.
Well, that's definitely not the case. It's what the NFL will do, because the NFL doesn't hate any of the teams.
No, they don't hate any of the teams. They definitely have bias.
Well, they have bias because they're gonna
milk out content that benefits and that gives them the most money as much as possible. And it just so happens to be, at least in recent years, the Chiefs, specifically this year with Kelsey and Taylor Swift. I don't think Taylor Swift is an issue. It's how she's covered that makes people hate her. I think they showed her, I think, around 10 times.
12 times.
12 times. You counted? I
didn't count. This is going to be...
I lost track halfway through it because I was like, they kept showing her so much.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, like, you blame the NFL, but how much of it, like, the NFL, the league, doesn't actually have that much control over that. It's mostly like Romo works for CBS.
Yeah.
The camera people work for CBS, Fox, ESPN, whatever. It's all the hate going to the NFL over coverage isn't even the NFL. Yeah. It's the media going, oh, she is worth money, so we're going to put her on screen.
Yeah. And that's why, and then we get people on these podcasts, specifically The Herd. I've watched several of his recent these clips where he's talked about Taylor Swift. He's like, you guys are just a bunch of big man babies who just don't like Taylor Swift and yada yada. And then a lot of people are like, most people are consensusly agreeing that, like, we don't hate Taylor Swift. We just hate how she's covered. And it's not that I don't have anything against Taylor Swift. I just hate every time they pan to her, even if it's not even related to Kelsey. There were, I think half the times they showed her, Kelsey wasn't even mentioned. They just happened to point towards her. They didn't point to Justin Bieber. They never pointed to, like, a bunch of... No, he was there. I didn't even know he was there.
I would rather not know that he was there. I didn't. Yeah, I don't want to see Justin Bieber.
It was like a clip or whatever it was, or someone mentioned that he was at the game. LeBron James was there. Mr. Beast was there.
Of course he was there. He couldn't afford the ticket himself.
Yeah.
I'd like 3 tickets, please.
Yeah, like, my point still being is that there are so many other celebrities at the Super Bowl but they only cover Taylor Swift.
Because there's always celebrities at the Super Bowl, and they'll usually give like a brief second for each one. The reason they cover Taylor is because Taylor definitely took more screen time away from some people, and yeah, but it's like that's your Chiefs fan. That is the Chiefs super fan, whatever. That is that's who they're gonna show every time. If it was,
she's not even a fan. She's only there to support Kelsey, which is fine.
Well,
I'm all for.
It's hard for you to say that she's not a fan though, because she wasn't a fan before. But she's gone to. Fan. She's gone to. What was it? 12? No, 13. She's gone to 13 games this year, and halfway through, she was like, "I've been missing out on this stuff." So now she's. From what it sounds like, she's actually enjoying the league, and newfound fans of the league. You don't even if they were like, "Oh, I'm a self-proclaimed Eagles fan" before. If she got into football while watching the Chiefs, there's a good chance she's a pretty good Chiefs fan right now, regardless of Kelsey.
Yeah, and it's because situation-wise, she just happens to date one of the main guys on a team that happens to be really good right now. And that's what people are really pissed off about. And it's like, I understand your frustration, but also... like, there's nothing wrong with, like, significant others or even friends just showing up to the Super Bowl and being like, hey, I support that person because they're related to me or I'm in a relationship. It doesn't matter. I don't care about that. It's just how much it's being forced down people's throats at this point. And I don't know. I actually had to turn off Instagram for at least a day and a half because it was really bad. Like, my entire feed was all Chiefs stuff. It was everywhere. And, like, I understand that the Super Bowl is, like, the biggest thing in the country and everything. But I don't remember specifically social media being that, like, spontaneous with the Super Bowl until this year. Sure, in years past, they've had, like, social media posts and everything because that's how they could, spread the word and all that stuff. I just don't remember this much coverage specifically on the Super Bowl aiming at the Chiefs like in prior years. Like, you remember the Patriots dynasty. You remember all the media coverage and everything, specifically in Tom Brady's last, like, Super Bowl win.
Well, okay, so...
like, I don't remember that much coverage. Do you?
Media is changing, so you're going to see more social media. The other thing is, it's the Chiefs. So the two things that are going to make the Chiefs blow up way more this year than any team prior is, one, it's the one with all the bandwagons. So you're going to have... and the bandwagons don't go to that. The 49ers, there were more 49ers fans at that game.
Yeah.
Than Chiefs fans. But you're going to have more Chiefs fans who aren't really Chiefs fans. But it's like that's going to fluff the numbers, so you're going to have a lot more attention there. And then again, and I'm not going to do this in any way to give her hate because I think it's great, but Taylor Swift fans are, first of all, Taylor Swift fans, that adds a lot of Chiefs fans because if you're a fan of Taylor Swift, you're probably going to root for the Chiefs.
And which is...
and that's going to give you more coverage. But also the thing is, generally, Taylor Swift fans probably more active on social media than traditional just sports fans. So that's why it was more coverage.
It was everywhere. It didn't matter if it was like, the NFL's account. It was just everywhere. Specifically, I saw, I couldn't even count it. Yeah, you had around 15 Taylor Swift posts. You had around 20 Mahomes posts. You had specifically Taylor Swift and Kelsey posts with all that. You had a bunch of like the players like with Lombardi and everything, which I think is cool. I think the Lombardi pictures are pretty sweet. Like that I didn't mind. It was just how fast it went across the internet. I mean, because we're always connected now because media and everything. I actually am very happy that we have more people going to the NFL and being like, this is actually a fun game to watch kind of thing. Like, I appreciate that. And I think Taylor Swift having the outlet to letting people join the NFL is fine. It's just, I hate the fact that it happens to be the Chiefs, because not only are we adding to the bandwagon, we're adding a bunch of people who, first of all, I think half of Swifties are only there for Taylor Swift. They or at least most of them. Most of them are only there for Taylor Swift and the fact that she's dating Travis Kelce. They don't care about football at all. I personally only care about the people who are like, I just discovered this new sport. This is some cool stuff. I want to start following the NFL. I think that's fine.
And again, I think it might just because it might just suck this year. It was a great media year for the NFL.
Yes,
but it went perfect.
Bad.
It went perfectly for them. Like when you look, especially I'm gonna make the argument with just like the Swifties, because obviously bandwagons are bandwagons. They're gonna exist. I hate them. But the Swifties, no, not all of them are gonna turn into NFL fans. But again, Taylor Swift went into the league or went to those games, however many, being like, oh, I'm just here because Travis is here. So how many Taylor Swift fans are going, oh, I want to watch because Taylor Swift's there? But at some point, Taylor Swift went, oh, this is fun. I've been missing out. Some of those Swift fans are going to be doing that.
Yeah, some of them.
No, again, it's not going to be everyone. I already discovered that it's like this year is not a year to be like, oh, it was a great year of football, but it is a year to be like, oh, this could benefit the NFL going forward because of coverage. And again, you're getting more Swifties involved, which is generally just more female audiences, which is good for the NFL.
Good. I guess all of that is funneling into one spot. It's not going to the rest of the NFL, is my point. Maybe it will branch out in a few years. I don't know. I guess my point is right now, all the Swifties are only fans of the Chiefs right now. They're not fans of other teams. I mean, there definitely are Swifties who are fans of other teams. It's just right now all of that is funneling into the Chiefs because Taylor Swift is there right now. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's just, and they're probably gonna. I mean, knowing the NFL, they're probably gonna show like a graphic saying like, look how many women watch sports now. It's like, good, because it's like obviously Taylor Swift has done a huge thing right now, so obviously they're gonna capitalize it, but I think it's a good thing. I mean, I want to talk to more people about sports. I don't want to be this weird ass person who's just like, did you see the game last night, bro? He caught like fun. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
But yeah, it's guy talk, but
it's definitely guy talk. But now I think the fact that women are, watching more sports now, and they're being involved, not just watching, they're being involved in it, for heaven's sake. It's nice to see that for once. So, I don't know. It's just, it sucks that it happened to be the Chiefs this year, and all those Taylor Swift fans get a Super Bowl then the first year they get a Super Bowl. And then there's like the Lions fans, the Cardinals fans, the Jaguars fans, any team who hasn't gotten a Super Bowl yet.
Texans, Chargers,
Panthers, Vikings.
It was just not the most entertaining season. It was kind of just anticlimactic, cool. But
yeah, I mean, I will admit there were points this season where I was just like, this isn't even fun anymore. Like if something, or at least, because football has been a part of my life specifically for a long time. And if something that I've loved so much is starting to get dull and boring at some point, it's not good. I mean, it was still entertaining at some points, obviously. I mean, it's the NFL. I mean, there's a lot of stories and things to talk about. It's just, it got repetitive. It got dull.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, look at how the Chiefs won the last 3 games. It wasn't anything really different. It was
the same thing again and again and again.
It's a sucky year, but I equate it almost to, it's not on the same level as it was last year.
Yeah.
But last year is like, oh wow, Chiefs Eagles. This is, who saw this coming?
I mean, they were really good teams last year, and I think both of them definitely deserved to be there. It's just I wanted the Eagles to win.
I didn't really.
See, that's the thing. You pick your poison.
Yeah, it was a pick your poison.
For most people, it was pick your poison. For me, it was like I would rather have the Eagles win.
It was the same thing this year, and that's the other thing you should compare this year and last year, but yeah, like people are sick of the Taylor Swift stuff, but last year it was the Kelce and Kelce stuff. It was
people
all
were
about
fed up with that, and it's just diverged into a different lane.
It's just it'll blow over. It's because it's the same stuff that happens every year, and then you go through the off season. You don't really care about that stuff anymore, and it's a new season, and something new happens, and then you hate that. It's the cycle of the NFL. There's always something really that's annoying.
It's just I guess my point is that if we can leave all of how much Taylor Swift and Kelsey recovered this season and not carry that so much into next season, I think a lot of people will be generally happy about that, or just at least content with the fact that they're not covering as much as they did this year. If they do and get worse next year, a lot of people are not going to be happy.
Oh yeah, you'll get enough complaints.
There's already people who are like, we need to protest against the NFL. This is some rigged ass shit. And I'm like, I can see where you're coming from, but also like that's not happening. I mean, yes, while the NFL is becoming more of a business as we speak, and I hate the fact that it is.
I mean, I don't know that I would say even more.
There is not a fix. Not yet.
They don't have. There's just not a consistent way to fix it. Because even like the closest you could get is, we're actually paying the players more than what we're saying to throw the game in a certain way. But even then, do you know how much talent people would have to do to make some of the mistakes that they do?
It is ridiculous because there's some claims where it's like they purposely threw the game away. I'm like, no, they were just being stupid. Like, what was it? There was a play earlier in the postseason where it's like, you need to make that tackle. Like, that was not rigging. That was just, what the hell was that guy doing? Please help me. It was
Bills, Chiefs? It was someone was supposed to, it was Patrick Mahomes, I think, is this what you're talking about? He scrambled to the right, and then, was it like Pacheco or McKinnon was like running next to him, and one of the defenders ran at him instead of the quarterback.
It was.
I think it was the Bills.
Yeah.
There's some changes that need to be made. I learned during the Super Bowl that apparently NFL referees only make like $20,000 a year.
Really?
That is what I was told, and I was like, "Wow!" So these guys really have to go and get a second job after. NFL season's done. Time to go work at Walmart.
It is a seasonal job. It's not a year-round thing.
But it is the biggest sport in the country, and you are making below what is considered manageable as a wage on a yearly basis.
Yeah. And when you think about it, it's like it's not the same crews. It's multiple different crews, so they're probably regional. So they're not. They're very local. I'd like to think about that, right?
I think the NFL usually assigns them. I don't know if it's by region, but it's just like it's the fact that they're professional. Like if you maybe this is just me, but I'm like if you really wanted like good NFL referees, at least pay them like that. Because again, you're supposed to a good career, you need at least like $40,000.
Maybe that's why they've been so awful lately. They just want a pay raise. They're on a strike right now.
Anyways.
Maybe that's why they threw that Lions-Cowboys game away. Maybe I don't know.
That's definitely the reason why.
No, I'm just throwing stuff out there. And I will say this. One of the things I forgot to talk about was that I specifically, I definitely got heated after the game because it was obviously not the result I wanted. It was just a rough game to watch because it was like, why are we letting this happen? Because I was frustrated at San Francisco for giving up basically at the very end of the game, not knowing how to do overtime rules and everything. And then stereotypes and everything just got reinforced. And Mahomes has his third ring. I will admit I definitely got heated after the game. Heated as in like I was definitely like what the like I was throwing some choice words around, and I may or may not have kicked a chair. But that's the worst it got. Like I'd say 30 minutes after that, I was fine. Like it was definitely heat up. I mean, everybody gets passionate about sports. The people who tend to dwell on that a lot, like you gotta move on. I mean,
it's a situation of dang it was not what I wanted to happen. But again, there's gonna be a Super Bowl next year.
Yeah.
and it's going to be a different outcome. Could the
Preferably.
could the Chiefs still win? Yes, but it is not going to be the exact same. It could
There's going to be different stories. There's going to be different
Exactly.
players. There's going to be it's everything. There's going to be different things. It's not the same thing.
It's the end of the story for this year. Whatever. Congrats to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I have my opinions on how well it was deserved, but I'm not gonna sit here and go, "Oh, everything is so dumb." The NFL's
it's rigged.
it's just
I don't know.
so beyond. It's childish, honestly, in my opinion. It's like it's a professional league. This stuff happens year round.
I mean, there are definitely some moments where I'm like, why did I just say this? Like it's not even, it doesn't affect me on a daily basis or anything. It's just, obviously it's something I'm very passionate about. It's just, there are definitely some things where it's just like, okay, I need to, look back and just kind of just take a step back, just breathe and everything. And I mean, I think that if people just realize that, it's not the end of the world, that one thing just happened. Sure, it sucks, but like, it's not the end of the world. And just move on from it. I mean, especially in recent, ever since I got into the NFL, I was so ticked off at Tom Brady winning all the time, and it would take me a while to get cooled off from that. And then, as you've been a fan for the NFL, at least for a few years, you'd kind of learn that, it doesn't affect me too much.
No, it's just like on to the next year, whatever.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's like different levels of pain.
Yeah, especially for the fans.
Well, yeah, because like my team, I'm like, oh, I'm still sour because it was like we were so close and we fumbled so hard. But then you look at like Chargers fans who are like, oh, I'm in pain because my division rival won the Super Bowl. And then you look at teams like, the Jets who have they're just like, well, I've had so much time to come to terms with the reality of what this year was that I don't care because these teams don't affect me and I'm more focused on next year. So,
and they have been in a perpetual state of hell where it's like they've never been good in such a long time. The last time they were good was in like 2010, 2011 when, Rex Ryan was there and everything. And the thing is that like, and that's why I root for underdogs, because it's like they definitely have stories to tell there, or at least they have the potential for something really good to happen. And it's like I want to see not just new things, but like a team come back from being god awful for so long. That's why I was a huge fan of the Browns, or at least when Baker Mayfield was there during the 2020 playoffs. I was like, yeah, I want to see success there. Sure, I mean for you it was a division rival and everything,
but they beat the Steelers, so I was happy.
Yeah, I mean. There you go. I mean,
and
I wanted
bad fashion too. That was great. Loved that.
I was jumping off of my couch that day. I was actually, I was not a Ravens fan or a Browns fan or a Bengals fan. I was just like, yeah, 12-0 for what, or 11-0 for what? Yeah, anyways,
before we wrap up, officially wrap up the season. The other thing that happened over the course of the past week was the NFL honors.
Yeah.
So, and this was, I actually surprisingly got my guesses pretty good on some of these.
I got mine pretty good on some of them as well. It's just, I was surprised by a couple of them specifically.
Yeah. So MVP going to Lamar, not surprised. That is what I figured because I would have been just fine if it was CMC.
I would have been fine if it was someone else, too, that wasn't Dak or Purdy. Because the thing is that no offense to you, Lamar was not the best quarterback this season.
Okay, this was the thing. Once the NFL honors happened, as I just saw so many people take to social media and complain about certain awards, and this one being one of them is, oh, his numbers are... fucking look at numbers. None of the numbers were impressive this year. No, none of the quarterback numbers were.
It was just... I mean, from who I watched this season, I definitely watched more quarterbacks than Lamar. More. It wasn't just because I didn't want to watch Lamar. It was just I happened to turn on more games that didn't have him playing all the time. And it was just because I saw, I saw Allen, I saw C.J. Stroud more. I saw, ironically, I saw Trevor Lawrence more than Lamar for some reason. That was because I was like hoping that the Jaguars would turn things around in that program, and here we are. But I guess my point is that you got to watch the games. It's not just stats; it's also situations. How does a player become like the key factor to a team pulling a victory? Because like you said this before, without Lamar, the Ravens would be nothing. I mean, sure,
Yeah.
they have the defense, but they would have nothing.
So, because this is the thing looking at this game is like, name a quarterback who really played better. Because if you look at Lamar, yes, his passing stats are not fantastic, but he makes up a lot with the run game.
Mm-hmm.
But also, even going beyond stats, like you mentioned, they had a really good defense. But outside of the defense, there were games where Lamar was the only thing going for offense,
Mm-hmm.
and he carried that offense with some help because their receiving game started to work. We had injuries at running back, so that didn't help.
That didn't help
But
either, but
he carried that team to the top seed in the AFC, and going into the postseason, regarded as the best team in the NFL.
yeah,
And if you take Lamar out of that,
that whole team collapses.
yeah, because then because the one thing is like, oh, maybe the Ravens have a better defense than the Chiefs, but they did if you take Lamar out of that team is worse.
Yeah.
There's no argument that they're even as good.
And
So
I guess my point is that I wouldn't have been upset if Lamar didn't get it, if like CMC or Josh Allen got it or some other. I think I know I would have been fine because in the Allen's case it was stats, not so much the interceptions, but yeah, I don't know. It's the reason why it's called the most valuable player is because which player stands out and also not carry but also elevates his team to a very high place, and Lamar did that.
yeah, that again, my argument was it was Lamar or CMC, and Lamar is a quarterback, so he probably gets a little bit of bias there. And I don't think voters know how to vote for what to vote for a running back for, because that running back hasn't won for almost 20 years. And so it's just even if the quarterback is Lamar, at least you know the standard because you've seen Lamar win MVP. You know what that kind of quarterback looks like.
Yeah.
And if you're comparing Lamar to other quarterbacks, it's hard to argue that any quarterback really played better than him this year.
It was a very sloppy year for quarterback play this year. Even Mahomes was going really south at some point. I was just like, what was going
part of it
on?
is his receivers.
It wasn't just his receivers. There were some moments where I'm just like, Mahomes, are you okay? It's it was everywhere. It affected every quarterback. I think it was just because defenses not only got better, but I think coaching this year was also very sloppy to some degree.
There was a lot of really sloppy, and it's some of the coaches way overstaying their tenure. Staley should have been gone a while ago. McDaniel should have been gone a while ago. Who else got? Rivera probably should have been gone at least a year ago. Belichick at least should have lost his GM role because that had really been bringing the team back.
He didn't know how to draft wide receivers or any other.
It was a lot of coaching stuff, and I was looking at it, it's this is just not what. It's sloppy, and so yeah, it does lead to the case of this is your quarterback MVP vote, and then the league not knowing how to vote for a running back. And I will admit he definitely could have had a more impressive season.
Mm-hmm.
CMC,
I definitely think CMC had the most consistent year.
Yeah, he was consistent. There were some games though where it's if he had a couple more big games, I think he would have had it.
Finally, but I don't know.
And I think he has a chance. But I think Lamar being a quarterback, I think just helped him there. Yeah. Luckily, CMC still got Offensive Player of the Year, which was what I was thinking. Tyreek.
If he didn't get MVP, he was getting Offensive Player of the Year.
Oh, yeah. Offensive Player was locked up. The only argument there would have been Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill kind of slumped towards the end of the year.
Yeah, he missed a couple games, and he didn't break his 2,000-yard record. That was the thing that I think if he would have broken, I think he would have made it.
If he broke that, I think he would have been an argument for MVP as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
But he just slowed down. Then the defensive player. Again, this one was like a toss-up, but I'm not surprised it was Myles Garrett because all year that's what I heard.
Yeah, I heard that all year as well. It was just stat-wise, I know it's the same argument for Lamar, but Parsons and Watt definitely do have the better stats.
This wasn't the year for Parsons
It wasn't
to get
the
it.
year for Parsons.
Watt,
Stat-wise, it made sense if Parsons did get it, but it also wasn't because Watt even had better stats than Parsons.
Yeah, it was to me. It was Watt or Garrett. I think Danielle Hunter and Max Crosby were undervalued.
I wish they got it, but it was like, it's gonna be Garrett or Watt.
It's just because, and I think Max Crosby is similar to these two, but these two were everywhere. Myles Garrett was just, I think, more prevalent in the game, like in games,
because that defense was really good, and it was just something that
he was the best player on that defense, so kind of gets him out there.
I mean, so
C.J. Stroud winning was
very well deserved.
There's still an argument there because, again, Puka Nacua, but
it's just.
I think part of it is literally that he is a quarterback because
quarterback bias. But you also have to remember that this is the best rookie year that a quarterback has had, and not just a long time. I think ever in some statistics.
But like, either way you look at it, it's still like it's going to favor a quarterback because even a few years ago, as much as I love Justin Herbert, he won Offensive Rookie of the Year over Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised about. I feel like Jefferson should have won that year, and I agree with you on that part. I think this year specifically, I think Stroud definitely deserved it over Puka Nacua, even though, like, the thing is that I that was one of the awards where it was like I didn't care who got it because both of them.
Yeah, it could have gone to either. I can understand why it's like, but Stroud showed some weaknesses, like obviously being a rookie and he touches the ball more, so there's more pressure. But Puka was very good. Puka was like a top 5 receiver this year.
He was on my fantasy team that won me the championship. So if that tells you anything, I don't know what else does.
But I'm not really mad. The one that I am a little bit more upset about is Will Anderson because there weren't great defensive rookies this year.
No,
but I don't feel like he deserved it.
Do you think Spoon should have gotten him?
I think Witherspoon should have been the one to get it because at least there was a point where I was like, that's a really good corner right there.
Yeah.
But
I don't know why he didn't get it either. I think Will Anderson's good. I just don't think he was as good as other players this year.
It was
hard. It was hard to pick out who was the better one.
Yeah, none of them were like outstanding. It's kind of flipped from last year. Last year there wasn't really a great offensive rookie, but you had Sauce Gardner. And, was Sauce Gardner last year? He was last year.
Yeah, Sauce Gardner was last year for defensive player, rookie defensive.
But who was? I forget who else.
I don't remember.
Someone else went against him that it was like, he's not gonna win it, but he definitely should have been up there. I was thinking Aiden Hutchinson, but he was a couple years ago. But also, ironically, this is the second straight year that offensive and defensive rookie have gone to players on the same team. And again, it's flipped because it's like, did Garrett Wilson really deserve it? Does Will Anderson really deserve it?
I don't know.
But I'm not terribly surprised. There just wasn't great options.
No.
Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year.
That was surprising.
I
thought people were going to vote Ryan. Or Ryan's.
I would have loved to see D'Amico Ryans. I would have, obviously Campbell is my favorite, but I think Ryan's, what he did was more impressive to me, but I knew from what I've heard that Kevin Stefanski is just managing the injuries. It was being able to win with the injuries he had.
Yeah, which is still impressive.
It was impressive. You went through 4 quarterbacks. You lost your best offensive player.
Mm-hmm. So
dealt with a lot of.
I think all 3 candidates were still very respectable. Whoever won.
Yeah. The one that I don't agree with, but I'm glad it wasn't the other one. This one also caused a lot of controversy on the internet, and
Really?
Yes.
I didn't see this one.
Joe Flacco winning comeback player of the year. I was like, yeah, that's better. I still wish it was Baker.
I thought it was going to be Baker.
I didn't think it was going to be Baker. I knew it was going to go between Joe Flacco or Hamlin. I thought Hamlin was.
Ever since you brought up Baker potentially getting comeback player of the year, I just looked more into it and I was like, you know what? I agree with that take, and I genuinely thought Baker was going to get it because he was one of the front runners, wasn't he?
I have no idea because usually they pick 5, but I knew it was going to be between Joe and Hamlin just because of narrative. Usually, if you follow narratives throughout the year, you can tell who it's going to go to.
Yeah.
And I knew it was going to be between these two. I looked at Baker and I'm like, Baker went from bouncing around like 2-3 teams in a year to landing on a team and in some instances being the only thing that kept them in a game.
Yeah.
Like he was actually a driving force, and they made it to the divisional round when they were projected to be one of the worst teams in the NFL.
I'm still kind of upset that the Browns moved on from Baker after one down year.
Yeah, but the Browns organization is garbage, so I'll stick with rooting for Baker rather than the Browns, and it'll just make my job easier and less conflicting.
So this is why I don't follow a fan base. I just follow the NFL because I will have biases. Following a fan base
is so fun, and even though, and I'll say that
there have been people who've been trying to get me to follow a certain team, and I was like,
It's just more fun. Again, I'm a Ravens fan. I still look at the Bengals, and I'm like, I wouldn't hate to see them win a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
it caused me a little bit of pain, but I'm like, it's a good team, and it's like, what? The Browns, they're just a garbage organization.
They just need to they need to get rid of their owner. The owner is probably one of the main reasons why they have such a bad reputation, to some degree. So, I don't know.
But yeah, back to the comeback player of the year. It went to Joe Flacco because he came in from being nowhere and coming in as a 4th string and then winning the last couple of games. But it's like, weren't games that mattered too much because you were already in a good position. Mm-hmm. You got the 5th seed and then lost to the Texans, and it's like, cool. Yeah, whatever. I still argue he deserves it more than DeMar Hamlin, but I did see people going out there and being like, okay, so apparently literally dying and coming back to life and then playing in the NFL doesn't win you comeback player of the year. And it's like, yeah, but comeback player of the year should be who comes back from something and plays well. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that, like, Hamlin, I'm not saying, like, oh, like, fuck Hamlin. Like, props to him. I'm happy he's healthy, and I'm glad that he's still in the NFL. But you have to actually have some stats. You have to,
he only had the one botched fake punt that they had,
because he was a special teamer this year.
Yeah,
and so it's like, again, I'm not gonna fault him for it. It's like, it's not his fault, but it's like it should be an award that is earned, that you have to actually come back and work for. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he had to work back into the league, but I think that there is a level of performance that needs to actually be met, which is why Joe Flacco won it. I just think that the work that he put in was actually more significant. But
definitely,
the people arguing either way, I don't think either of I think Baker was more deserving, but I knew he wasn't going to get the recognition. And maybe it's because I really don't know how they vote on this stuff. So
I don't know either. It is what it is. It is what it is. So
I'm not.
But I'm glad the season's over.
I got maybe 5 right out of all of them. So
that's right.
Although I did say this before, the only award that really matters. Tom Grossi winning NFL Player of the Year.
Okay.
Fan of the Year.
That was very
it was well-deserved, though. I was sitting there, and I was like, he's going to win it, but I need confirmation. And then he did, and I was like,
I saw it blow up in a couple spaces. I was like, I'm not a Packers fan, but fuck yeah.
I would have been so disappointed if he didn't.
No, I was genuinely going to be like, NFL, are you tweaking?
Well, because it was clear cut in my eyes, but
there's no other competitor.
I don't know.
I have bias for like urinating tree, but even Tom Grossi even clears him.
Apparently, he knew like a week before though, and he just couldn't say anything. I'm like, dude, how? I could never.
Not good.
Just sitting there for a whole week, and you're just like, you just won NFL Fan of the Year, and you're
That's
just
probably
like,
why he was all giddy for the end of it.
jeez, gonna go to Vegas. Hopefully I win. Anyways. You guys think I'm gonna win? I don't know.
Go back home. But
No, but that was, that was. I love watching all his coverage of that stuff. It was very feel good. But that's officially a wrap on the 2023-2024 season, NFL season. We're gonna see a little bit of a change up in content and format and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
they're not going to be an hour long. I'm promising that.
We're probably gonna upload more videos, but shorter videos.
Very short, like a
Well,
lot shorter.
Maybe
I would like them to be shorter, but
yeah,
we'll get there.
We'll shorten them a bit, and it'll be more specified topics. But we're excited to get into more creative realm of stuff for the off season, make it a little more fun. But,
for sure.
Appreciate everyone joining us for this season, and look forward to a fun off season. First off season for the channel.
Yeah,
exciting.
We haven't even had a full season of this channel yet.
Yeah,
so
it was like
kind of like halfway through the season, so we're just like, screw it.
Exciting nonetheless. We're excited to see where things go, and we appreciate you following along for this season, and are excited to see people back this time in September for next season. But hopefully get some views still throughout the off season.
Yeah, I mean,
make some fun content.
Yeah, get some skits going.
Love some skits. Watch some draft.
When is the draft? It's like April. Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, it's like mid-April, end of April. I don't remember.
We'll
Anyways, we'll get there eventually.
Looking forward to it. We'll see you guys in the off season.
See ya.
Bye-bye.